Hey everybody, MGB back with you. We're going to discuss week 5 of the NFL season, a little fantasy football advice like usual. First of all, let's talk about where I hit and missed and got a draw here in week 4. Week 4 was a little weird. Man, this whole season is shaping up to be like odd shit's just happening everywhere. However, once again, always start your studs. I'm not here to tell you that. This is advice regarding the flex positions, number 2s, number 3s, that kind of crap. Some of these may seem like they're going out on a limb, but I've hit a lot of them. So, let's talk about where I hit and miss in week 4. All right. First of all, week 4, I told you to start Sam Bradford. Man, with Steven Jackson back, thought things were going to be a shootout. He ended up not doing horrible, but not doing great. 164 yards, a touchdown, no picks. He got you no negative points because of that, but he got you roughly 12 points or so out of your quarterback position, which isn't great, but it's also not going to destroy you. So if you didn't have a better option, Sam Bradford was okay, but I'm going to give myself a draw on that one. I also told you to start A.J. Green of the Bengals. Hit that one. 4 catches, a total of 124 yards from scrimmage. So he got you a 16 points or so in your league. Give myself a win on that. That was against Buffalo. I told you to start Tim Hightower because, in my opinion, he's absolutely the best at everything that the Redskins have. However, thank you to Mike Shanahan for doing his normal backfield rotation thing, screwing us all up and giving Ryan Terrain all the carries and all the touches when he hadn't touched the ball at all this season. So I'm going to make a quick recommendation. First of all, I'm just going to forget that one because there's no way Hightower shouldn't have been playing. Terrain did fine, but how are we supposed to know? So just here's a blanket thing. Unless you have no better option, let's just avoid Washington's backfield because who knows who's going to get the ball. Next week, is it going to be Roy Halou? Is it going to be Hightower? Is it going to be Terrain? It's lame. So let's just forget about Washington's backfield. I told you to start Atlanta's defense, and man, it was looking good to begin with. I thought this was the week they were going to really, really come together, and they still sucked. They gave up 28 points late points to Seattle. It was retarded. You only got maybe 5 points out of them, which isn't negative points like some defenses got you. So I'm still giving myself a loss on it. They had a couple of interceptions, but they gave up 28 points, which is retarded. So you're usually getting 1 or 2 points apiece for interceptions, but then the giving up 28 points is a wash, or depending on your league, maybe negative points. I'm gonna give myself a loss on that one. I said, even though Joe Flacco had been amazing so far this season, I said sit him, and it's a good thing you sat him. I hope you did. In some leagues, he got you negative points. He had 163 yards passing, no touchdowns, a fumble, an interception. It was pretty ugly. I looked at different formats, and he got you anywhere from -2 to 5 points. Not good out of your starting QB, so I'm going to give myself a big fat win on that guy. I said to sit Brandon Lloyd. Hey, here's a big loss. The guy had 130-some yards receiving. Yeah, I screwed that one up. Told you to start Percy Harvin. He had 67 yards rushing. He had 5 catches for 42 yards. He had 1 return for 25 yards. He got just nice solid points out of a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 flex spot. So I give myself a fat win on that. The next one, I said to sit Daniel Thomas of Miami for a few reasons. First of all, it wasn't known until late whether he was going to play or not, so I didn't want anyone to risk it. I'm not going to give myself a win or loss, obviously, on this because he didn't play. But even if he had, it wouldn't have been good. But that was more just a warning. So skipping ahead, I said to sit Dallas D. Didn't start out like it was going to be bad, but it ended up not being awesome. They gave up uh, 22 points, didn't have any sacks, one interception, no fumbles, so it didn't get you a whole lot of points, maybe 4-5 points out of your defense, so I give myself a win on that. I went 4-2-1 this week on my picks, or on my advice. So 13 wins, 6 losses, and 5 draws. And again, just want to clarify, I'm not telling you to start Aaron Rodgers and start Calvin Johnson. That stuff you should know. Like a lot of other fantasy guys are going out on the limb and saying, start Drew Brees. Well, no shit. All right, so let's move on to this week. Hey, still got the pretty paper. Can you tell? I got a wife and kids. Anyway, all right. This week, first guy, start this quarterback. He had a horrible week, but he's going to bounce back against Philadelphia. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. It would seem like he's an auto start, but he had a terrible week, man. 7 points maybe in your fantasy league, which is not good. Believe me, he screwed me in my big money league. Getting me 7 points. It was retarded. So start him. Philadelphia is just falling apart everywhere. So as long as that's still happening, just start yourself Ryan Fitzpatrick. And it's a bye week, so there's a lot of weird things happening. So like all of a sudden, guys you normally wouldn't start should be starting. Instead of a wide receiver that you should start, I'm gonna substitute that with a tight end. A guy who hasn't been very effective late. I think he's only had 7 or 8 catches so far this year. But that would be Mercedes Lewis of the Jags. They're playing against Cincinnati, who's coming in giving up like the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends, and I think it's time. I think he's going to bust out this week. You've been seeing it all around the league. Your tight ends have been catching like Brandon Pettigrew and Jimmy Graham. These guys catching 10, 11 passes. I'm not saying he's going to catch 10 or 11, but I'm saying 5, 6, 7 passes is not out of the realm of possibility, doubling his output for the entire year in this one game. I'm thinking you should start yourself Mercedes Lewis. All right, a couple of running backs. Again, in the bye week, some guys maybe you wouldn't take a look at, both in the same game. Well, one guy has sort of become a must start, but because it's the same game, I just want to put this out there. The New Orleans and Carolina game, start like all the running backs, especially on this bye week. Well, all the running backs from Carolina, D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart should have fine days. Jonathan Stewart mostly in the passing game. I wouldn't be shocked to see him catch 5 passes and run for 20, 30 yards to help boost the stats a little bit. And of course, start Darren Sproles. And this week, the matchup looks amazing. Remember in week 2, I said that Darren Sproles was going to be the leading pass catcher. Yeah, how about I say that right? Pass catcher for the Saints, which is saying something on the Saints. And here he is, man, catching tons of passes every week, week in, week out, and still getting a good amount of yards too. Sproles had, I don't know, 70 yards rushing and the same pass or receiving last week. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so always at this point, consider Darren Sproles a must start. And yeah, Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, you should probably start as well. All right, for defenses, and you might not think this is good advice, but I think it's going to be. Start Indianapolis, especially if you have one of the awesome defenses on a bye. Baltimore, which I have in a few leagues, thank God. You go pick up Indianapolis versus Kansas City, man. They can still rush the passer. They're going to get you some sacks and some interceptions, possibly fumbles, whatever. Okay, here's who you're sitting. Sit Matt Ryan, man. And I love Matt Ryan, but they're playing Green Bay. He hasn't been good. Just sit him. Sit him. I'm almost tempted to tell you to sit Roddy White, too. He's been dropping balls. He's hurt. In fact, what the hell? I wasn't going to say sit Roddy White. Sit Roddy White. Do it. Sit Atlanta's defense. I thought they were going to be good. I had them in a couple of leagues, and they have just been so disappointing. Sit them. Sit them, sit them, sit them. And this is just advice. Whether he plays or not, Rashard Mendenhall playing Tennessee has been really tough. Don't do it. He's been god awful, quite honestly, and almost useless in almost any format. Start him if you have to because it's a bye week, and hope that you get some points out of him if he plays. But if you have any better options, man, just don't do it until he improves in health or something. All right, a couple of pickups just because it's bye week, a heavy bye week this weekend, next week. Here's guys to look at. Wide receiver Josh Morgan of the Niners. He's only owned in 1% of fantasy leagues. Patrick Creighton, wide receiver, only owned in 3% of fantasy leagues. LaDainian Tomlinson, you can pick him up in nearly half of fantasy leagues. And on a bye week, dude, he's easily. Sean Green has been useless again. So LT, good option. Jason Campbell, pick him up. He's been good. He's only owned in 21% of Yahoo fantasy leagues, but so that's probably a trend. So pick up Jason Campbell if your quarterback is on a bye and your backup is shaky. Campbell's putting together a pretty good campaign. So anyway, you have anything to talk about? You want to talk about lineups, whatever, having trouble on guys to pick up, let me know. Leave a message. I'll get back to you. So anyway, till next week, this is MGB with the best advice you're going to get.